Hi everyone, I'm Vino. I hope your presentations are going well. In this presentation, we're going to go over how to cite your sources and go into some specific tips that you can use when you're actually delivering your presentation. So first off, what are citations? So citations are references to info that you'll use in your own work. You'll be using these in things like essays, research papers, or presentations. And there's a couple different styles, which we'll just mention a bit later. So when would you cite something? So you'll be doing this when you're using a direct quote from a source you found, if you're paraphrasing information that you've seen online, using data, statistics, summarizing. Anytime you're using someone else's ideas, you'll almost always have to cite it. Um, and you'll also be doing this for images, tables, figures. And also, it's better to cite than to not cite if you're unsure. So that's just a rule to keep in mind. And why are they necessary? So we cite because this gives credit to the original author or the creators of that information. This avoids plagiarism. So we don't want to be copying someone else's work without giving them proper credit. Um, this is also for credibility purposes. So this shows that your work is informed by reliable sources, and it also helps readers locate the sources that you use. So if something that you presented was particularly interesting to someone and they want to look into it further than you talked about, then having that citation there allows them to go to that source and explore it in their own time. So these are the main types of citations that you may see. The most common one being APA. This is most common in the sciences and the one you'll be using for your assignments. Another type is MLA, which is more common in the humanities like literature and art. Chicago style used in history and some social sciences, and Harvard is more common in business and law. So how do we create these citations? So a citation typically has info like the author's name, title of the work, when it was published, and where it was published. So it can also differ. Like there's specific forms, like different like slight differences in each type of source that you may find, such as a book, academic journal, video, or online article. Um, and where do you find the information on what to include in your citation? Purdue OWL is a great source. It has like all the different kinds of sources that you may be citing and like exactly how you need to orient your references. So in this example, you can see the author's last name. All this information is organized in a very specific way. You'll see that in this case, the publication is italicized. We'll go into a lot of it in this presentation, but the Purdue OWL is a great source to get clearer on what that looks like. Before we go any further, what are in-text citations? So in-text citations is like a small reference within your body of text that points to the full citation. So this is like a mini reference that indicates the original source that you'll be having listed in your references page. This allows readers to know where the specific info comes from without disrupting the flow in your writing. And the point of this is to, of course, credit the source of the information and also allow readers to find that full reference in your references page. So you'll be seeing that the format for in-text, it's typically author's last name and the year. And this is placed at the end of a sentence before the period and also immediately after whatever quoted or paraphrased material you have. So if you look at the examples we have here, there's a slight difference between if you use paraphrase and quote. So for paraphrase, you'll see it's all you need is the author's last name and the year that the source was published. Whereas if you're using a quote, direct quotation, you'll be also adding the page number from that quote. So this is what your references list should look like by the end of it. You'll be putting these in the last slide of your assignments, titled references, and be sure to keep in mind that you list them in alphabetical order based on the author's last name. So in order to make these citations, there's two typical ways you can go about doing this. The longer way is creating these citations manually. So of course, Purdue OWL, as I mentioned, is a great resource. It'll show you full breakdowns and examples of how to cite each type of source. The pros of this is it's accurate, and by doing it this way, you'll be able to learn the process and have it become natural to you, so that if you ever have to do it again in like future studies, future assignments, it'll be a lot more effortless, and you'll be able to save yourself from losing a lot of little marks from like tiny mistakes, which I've made a lot of. Cons to this is that it's a bit slow. It takes a bit of time. It's a little bit tedious, and there's a bit of a learning curve that goes into it. The fast way you can cite things, which I've used a lot, is the citation machine or citation makers online. So these can be a really convenient way to just put in all the information of a source and have it make the citation for you. The pros of this approach is it's fast, it's easy, but of course, it's never going to be 100% perfect. It can be inaccurate at times, especially when, if you have to, like, say, feed it a link and then it'll try to pull out the information for you. It could be inaccurate in doing that. And as well, you won't be learning about like how you would actually go about citing things. So just something to keep in mind. But we're by no means saying you shouldn't be using this. So this, by all means, go for using this. Just keep this in mind. So another fast way, which is more specific to like academic work, that you'll likely find on Google Scholar and PubMed, is that if you use these types of search engines, you'll find a cite button below the source, and once you click on it, as you can see in this picture, it'll just have the citation there pre-made for you, so you don't have to do any extra work. So you can typically just copy and paste this into your this citation into your slides. The con is that it's not available on news articles or random websites. So you may be, so say you're like finding a source on BBC News, chances are you won't find this like pre-made citation there. Sometimes you might, but typically you wouldn't, unless that original source where, like, say the article says research shows this, right? And then there may be a hyperlink in there that if you click it, it'll take you to like a research article. And then if that's the case, then you can again go through this process and just find the citation really easily. So yeah, unfortunately, this is pretty much only limited to the research work, like academic articles and things like that. So just something to keep in mind. Another thing is, so when you're making your references page at the very end, indenting is something that citation makers will do for you if you ask it to like make your full references list. But if you're making it manually, you may be wondering how to get that indentation there. It can be really confusing. So for each source, just so you know, each line after the first line should be indented. So it's really quite simple if you just follow these steps. So the first step, it would be to highlight the lines of the citation. So this could be 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, however long the source may be. And then you'd go to the format menu, click align and indent, and then indentation options. And then you make sure to input these numbers as well as select the hanging indent. So that's the special type of indent for this. So you select hanging indent, and then you'll put 0.5 beside that box. And then after you press apply, it should turn your reference into this indented version. Which is how it's supposed to look. So just something to keep in mind if you're going about manually writing out your references. And yeah, so now we're going to just summarize what I've mentioned today. So these are just the basics. So we talked about 2 different types of citations. In-text, which is for like a mini citation, which refers to your final reference list. And this is typically going to be your author's last name and the year it was published, unless it's a direct quote, which you'll add the page number at the end. And your reference list, or reference slide in this case, you'll be titling this slide references, and you'll be listing your sources alphabetically by the author's last name. So in your reference list, so this is what we pulled out from Purdue OWL, and also our experience just knowing how the references format looks for these 3 types of sources, which you'll likely encounter a lot when you're doing your research. So this is the structure for these 3 types of sources. So books, websites, and news articles. You'll notice it's like organized in a very particular way. Something to keep in mind. So all 3 in common have the author's last name and then the first initial as the first things you'll include. You'll notice that for news articles, you'll also have to add the month and day in addition to the year. And then for books and websites, you'll notice that the title of the book, title of the web page are italicized. So that's something you should keep in mind. Whereas in the news article, it's the newspaper name, such as BBC News, that's italicized and not the title of the article. So just something to keep in mind. So you can just take a look at these and really get the hang of how like the differences between these types of sources. And I've also included, so if you're going to use a journal article or any academic source that you find on something like Google Scholar, PubMed, this is the format. It's a little bit different because there's a few extra components. You'll notice there's title of the journal, and also volume number, issue number, and You'll notice that the title of the journal here is italicized, as well as the volume numbers. So this is just how you would format that if you were to go about that. And just as a reminder, you typically find these citations pre-made, as I told you. Like, so if you click the cite button on Google Scholar, it should have that citation there for you. And yeah, that'll make it a lot more convenient for you to just get your citation. So as I mentioned about Purdue OWL, this is the full, like, these two sources, the APA style as well. These both have like full breakdowns and examples of how you can cite various sources. If it wasn't clear enough from what I've discussed today. So as well, if you couldn't find the answer to what you were looking for, like say you have a specific kind of source that you weren't sure how to cite, that these guides weren't able to provide you, or even if you just want to straight up ask us, by all means, don't hesitate. We're always happy to help. So just shoot us an email if you have any concerns. And next, we'll be moving into the presentation skills. So skills you'll be using when you're like actually making your presentation, delivering them. And yeah, let's get into it. So first off, the preparation. So when you're structuring a presentation, it helps to, for instance, make an agenda slide. So this is a tip I have for you. To make an agenda slide, it's like a short stepwise list of the topics that you'll be discussing. So let's say there's the issue, and then there's current research, current solutions, and then there's your solution section, and then there's a future outlook section. So that's just a sample structure of, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but by having that at the very beginning, your listeners can better understand what you're about to discuss and like the various areas you're going to hit on. Connected to this, it's also really important to have a clear logical flow for your sections. So if you haven't already gone to see Hamza's sample presentation video on the Resource Hub, he goes into depth on a sample like structure for your presentation. So like what section should follow what section and what to include in that in each section. So you can check out his video to get clear on like how to structure your sections. It also helps to use visuals to reinforce key points. So let's say you found a really key statistic. Let's say you found out, like, for example, I'm just making this up, but 1 in 8 households in Toronto don't have secure access to food. If you find a really like important statistic like that, you're gonna want to show it in a very like nice, like cool, not cool, engaging, like visual way that engages people's attention. So this is something maybe you can find online, maybe Google Images, or even get creative and make it and display it in your own creative way. But ultimately, these just help bring out your key points and what you want the readers to understand. It also helps to rehearse. So rehearsing your presentation, it's really helpful to practice multiple times. Rehearsing out loud makes it so not only do you get comfortable with the content that you'll discuss, but it'll make it a lot easier for you to add your own personal touch to it, which I'll discuss soon. So you can obviously do this out loud to yourself, with your group a couple times, to anyone, however you got to do it. But essentially, it's really important to practice so that you're confident with the material and understand it. So it's not like you're stuck reading off of your notes, and you can just start speaking about your issue in a very conversational way to your audience. Also, with regards to timing, so you want to make sure that each section has enough timing. We hope that we've provided you enough time. So 15 minutes, I believe, is the allotted time for you guys for each presentation. Hopefully that should be more than enough time for you guys to get through all of your content. But while you're rehearsing, you want to make sure that you coordinate with your group and also time it to make sure that it's within the time limit. And yeah, that's all I have for that section. So engaging your audience. So here are some general tips I have to engage your audience and make your presentation more memorable. So steady eye contact. So this is about just making sure you just have a steady eye contact, as in you're not frantically looking around, you're not nervous. This allows you to connect with your audience members and keep their attention. This is also connected to referring to your notes minimally. So you want to make sure like you're looking at your audience consistently, and you're keeping your you don't look at your notes the entirety of the time. You want to have so you want to be able to just talk on your points and also look at the audience in general. Another tip is to use open body language. So this means a straight, tall posture. You don't want to be slouching. And it also helps you use hand gestures to emphasize your points and really just make that understanding clearer to your audience. With regards to vocal delivery, you want to speak at a moderate pace and also vary your tone. You're not a robot. You're not a AI assistant. You're a human being with a really, like, with your voice, you can use a lot of pitches and just also be able to project your voice. So it's not about, like, it's not the difference I want you guys to understand is it's not like you're having a conversation with your buddy right beside you. You're talking to a room of people. So the cue I like to use is speak out. So pretend your voice is like projecting in a cone outwards rather than like within your immediate space. Another tip I have is to use deep breathing. So a lot of us, pretty much all of us, can relate to like how nerve wracking it could be to present to a group of people. Um, and sometimes we may forget we may either forget we're breathing or we'll be breathing too quickly and causes some internal panic. So I highly recommend you use deep breathing. So like, let's say you're another group member is currently talking, just take a moment to acknowledge your breath and engage in some slow, deep breathing. And this will allow you to better control your nerves as well as control your voice. Because if you're breathing really quickly, you pretty much be like gasping for air. You won't be able to get your words across, and it'll ultimately lead you to like be less confident in how you deliver your presentation. So this is just a little section about how to boost your engagement from your audience, some extra things you can do to really really drive home your presentation. So telling stories is a really great tool to use. So using relatable personal stories to help others understand your point of view. So let's say you're talking about food security. You can bring up a story of when, like, so for instance, when I was in high school, a lot of my friends get breakfast, and you can use this. You can, like, for whatever reason it may be, this is something you can speak on as a personal experience and also put into the context of your solution. So this really like sets the tone and sort of puts your audience in the shoes of like someone who may be who may value what solution you have to offer. Another way to do this is by starting with a hook or a attention grabbing like hook or story. By that, I pretty much mean like you can talk about like a hypothetical situation that intrigues your audience. Let's say, imagine a world where we can drastically reduce anxiety with a really simple community-based intervention. So something mysterious, intriguing, so that your audience is wondering, curious, and like ready to digest the content that you have to present. And lastly, making visually pleasing slides. So I know that using templates that you may find on Slides Go, Canva, these are really nice templates that can make your presentation really nice to look at, and then also make your information a lot more easier on the eyes. Using images as well really help bring out your points. So you don't want your slide to just be edge to edge full of text. You want to have a nice balance of text and images so that the viewers are not overwhelmed with content and better able to understand what you're discussing. And yeah, that's all I have to present for today. I hope this presentation addressed any confusions you might have about referencing. I know that there's a lot of nitty gritty, but I hope that what I've discussed today just simplified things, made it really clear. If you have any questions or concerns about anything I've discussed today or with regards to the assignment itself, feel free to reach out to us by email. We're always more than happy to have a chat or help you guys out with anything. And yeah, that's all I have. That's all I have for you guys today. And I wish you the best of luck with your presentations. Take care.